name is Mike Aquilina. I'm a writer. I was raised in a devout home. I was born during the Second Vatican Council. I was born in 1963, and so I grew up with all of that excitement around the council. Things were happening, and the people who were older than me, I'm the youngest of 7 children, they were excited about the things they saw. You could feel the excitement in the air, and I always went to Catholic schools. So usually that's where the experiments took place, and I witnessed most of them through the 70s. Faith was a serious component in our family life, and it was a really serious part of the culture of the schools I attended early on in grade school. They were staffed by sisters. Most of our teachers were sisters, and from 2 different religious orders. I was in 2 different schools during grade school. And they were serious about teaching the faith. When I was confirmed in the 5th grade, and we had to memorize the Baltimore Catechism before we could go forward for confirmation. And I was serious about that too, because you could win a ship in a bottle if you were the first. And I was the first, but somebody else got noticed before I got noticed, and he got the ship in the bottle. But anyway, we had to memorize the Baltimore Catechism, and the Baltimore Catechism is a wonderful thing in many ways because it grounds you in philosophy, not only basic doctrine, but it gives you a philosophical way of looking at the world. What is man? Man is a creature composed of body and soul, made to the image and likeness of God. You have a compact anthropology. And from that, you can answer all kinds of moral questions that you're going to face later on in life. You know, you have the equipment to deal with it intellectually. I love the Baltimore Catechism for that reason. I bring it up, though, because the next year, 6th grade, it's almost as if someone threw a switch, and everything changed. Before that, religion was something very serious. It was something that was demanding, something that was kind of rigorous in terms of what it asked of you. And now it was something easy, frivolous, and it seemed to us silly. I know they were trying to accommodate us. I know they had good goals. I know they had good intentions. You know, they wanted to meet us where we were, but really they were meeting us where we had been in kindergarten. They were giving us things to color, and we were in 6th grade by then, and it seemed stupid to us with 2 O's, right? And unfortunately, it stayed that way. Not only through junior high, but through high school. Religion was the one subject that was not serious. It was not seriously taught. And I think that had its effect, you know, on my friends, on me. And I would say that early on in my high school years, I became essentially a non-practicing Catholic. I just kind of checked out mentally, even though I was going to Catholic schools. Even though they made us go to confession and made us go to Mass and go on retreat, I had checked out. You know, I was no longer in the room because it seemed silly to me. I did my undergraduate at Penn State, a gigantic secular university. Most of my teachers in the liberal arts, if they mentioned religion at all, their personal religion, they said they were agnostic or atheist, okay? But they taught with rigor, and they were honest about history. And what I found again and again was that history was Catholic. You know, if you look at so many of these great historical figures in the arts, in the sciences, if you look at so many of the great accomplishments, the great ideas in history, advances in sculpture, painting, music, all of these different fields were borne forward through history by Catholics. And the church itself was the great home where that happened. It was a nice, nurturing home where that happened all through history. You know, Cardinal Newman said to be deep in history is to cease to be a Protestant. Well, it's to cease to be whatever I was, too. You know, so I'm there at Penn State, and I get to, I think it was my senior year, and I was taking a course in poetry writing. An advanced course, senior level, and our professor wanted us to take a poem in another language, in a form that's native to another language, and to translate it, and not only translate it, but translate it into a native English form. So it was a tough assignment. He was stretching us, right? I didn't remember any Spanish. I had had 4 years of Spanish. I didn't remember any of it. I had 1 year of Latin, and I remembered everything. So I went to the library, and I just pulled down the Oxford Book of Latin Verse, and I said, I'm just going to translate whatever poem I open to. And I opened to the Adoro Te Devote by St. Thomas Aquinas. And so I did the translation, and all I can say is, in the course of that translation, it all came back to me, and it all made sense. I just saw all the faith of my parents, since my grandparents, my ancestors, coalescing around that, and I had that vision of the Catholic culture that could produce such a poem, and not only such a poem, but such a poet as Thomas Aquinas, and not only such a poet, but such a genius in every field he touched as Thomas Aquinas, such a mover and shaker in history. So I think that was the moment for me. Now, it took me a while to come back to the full practice of the faith. I stalled, as I always do for everything that's worthwhile, and I hemmed and hawed, but I made it back, and I think that was the moment. That was the turning point.